Tina Turner right now. We can't hear you, Sandy.
All right, just 1 second.
Oh, there
we go.
You're now tuned in to the Cold Hard Truth, Cayman's #1 hard-hitting live podcast show, where we feature some straightforward conversations on political, social, and celebrity news and all things happening in the Cayman Islands and around the world. This show was created to give the people a voice and a means of being involved and informed without any filters. Sometimes it gets crazy, but we always keep it real. We bring you the tea, piping hot, so grab your favorite beverage and join the conversation via WhatsApp at 324-1612. Email tips@CaymanMarlRoad.com. Now, here's your host, Sandy Hill, broadcasting live from the beautiful Cayman Islands.
Okay, good morning, folks. Hi, guys. Can you hear me? No? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Blake? Aaron? Anybody? I'm not sure if they can hear me.
We can hear you. Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good morning. Happy Friday.
Thank you. Happy Friday.
Yeah. Did you play the national anthem?
Not yet, but I thought we were running a few minutes behind, so I'm ready when you are.
Oh, okay. Well, we're playing Simply the Best by Tina Turner. Would you like to hear it?
Sure. I'm trying to figure out my...
Yeah. That's a good song.
Love Tina.
It is Old School Fridays on Kiss FM and Blake and Aaron each Friday morning.
Beautiful.
You hear that? Sing on.
You guys know what happens when the power goes out, right? You lose connection to everything.
Your power went, yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah.
So mine kept going in and out as well.
Same.
It was annoying. I kept resetting the microwave clock for it to just go off again.
I was glued to the television yesterday. Well, we can talk about it coming up.
Okay.
We can come out of Tina Turner right now. Stand by. We'll go live on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
Tina Turner, Simply the Best. That's such a great song.
Mm-hmm.
Old School Fridays on 106.1 Kiss FM. It is the Blake and Aaron Show. And we're brought to you each and every morning by Subway. Eat fresh. Ready for the top news headlines of the day with CMR? Let's talk to Sandy.
Big news. I have some important news for you. Interesting news.
It's Blake and Aaron's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Good morning, Sandy.
Hey, good morning, guys. How are you?
Morning. Great. You?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Finally.
I
look a little bit darker than usual because still trying to figure out how to turn on my overhead light, but
Have you tried a light bulb?
Aaron is very helpful.
Aaron, like I know, right? I'm like,
I don't know.
Is this due to the power outages yesterday?
Yes, because everything is like smart connected and
it trips everything, and then you have to reset it all, and
it confuses Alexa and the whole 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. We've got Alexa in the studio, as a matter of fact.
I left it on all day yesterday.
Oh, you did?
Because I saw it going purple when we were talking earlier.
Well,
I was like,
turn her on. We'll see what she has to say this morning.
Recording. What?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah, we've been checking in with her as well.
Alexa, good morning.
Good morning. Barbed wire was first patented in the U.S. on this day in 1867.
Cool.
Many people found it useful, but critics were on the fence.
Barbed wire.
All right, cool.
Wow,
cool.
Barbed wire,
Slow
very
news,
useful.
Slow news day for Alexa.
She's got quite a sense of humor, I must tell you.
I was glued to the TV yesterday all day, just watching this coverage of this condo building that collapsed in North Miami. And we were talking yesterday, like we had heard that it was undergoing renovations. And so we weren't sure if people were inside, but there's nearly 100 people still unaccounted for.
I saw on Twitter there was people that were posting up, like obviously all the photos and all the people missing, and you just were scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. And I'm just my heart just I can't take it. And I hope people are found. But when you look at that building,
I just wonder why you look at this all day yesterday, 24-hour coverage, or it's been 24 hours since it's happened, a little bit over that. Get everybody in there, start removing rubble. I don't know why it takes so long.
If you get too many people in there, you have to remove it piece by piece. Some of it's too heavy because if you put too much more weight on it, someone could, that is there, it could collapse a little bit more. Yeah,
it is crazy.
1,000 people in there. Take one stone at a time. Let's get it going. Let's see who's.
Well, I think they are doing that.
Yeah,
no?
I just want to see. You just feel bad because that whole thing, 12 stories, just pancake on top of each other. Did you see the video of it actually happening?
Mm-mm.
Like there was a CCTV on another building that and it saw the whole thing go down. It was just terrifying to watch.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
What do you got from Cayman land news?
Right. So today's actually going to be a very busy day for people. So there's a number of things going on, including at 8:00, we're going to be logging into the Zoom call with the international observers. So they've come back with their report regarding the election. And so I think a lot of people are very interested to hear what they have to say about the general election. So I think, most of us feel like it's pretty good, but I'm sure it can use some improvement. So we're waiting on that. And then this morning, there'll be a ceremony in town where there'll be a renaming of a street. So if you guys are traveling through Central Georgetown today, I would say don't avoid the area.
What's the street?
It is going to be called Seafarers Way. And I think it's right there by the terminal, by the North Terminal.
They're renaming like in front of the main road, which is
what Harbor?
Which is
Harbor Drive?
North Church Street.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But they're going to rename that Seafarers.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So yeah, right on the waterfront. So they're going to have to lock off all the streets in the general vicinity until 1:00 today.
Okay. Well, yeah, as long as, whatever. I find this place, like sometimes I'll be driving and like people trying to get to my house, there won't be road signs for certain streets. You just have to kind of say the tree. So maybe we could name a couple more streets.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Probably have official names. You just don't know what the name is.
That's what I'm saying. But if there's no sign, can't I just go in and maybe name it myself?
You could. You could in your mind.
Aaron,
if I start finding a bunch of Aaron streets all around, you'll know who did it.
You must not remember life before there were any real street lights. That was street names. That was an exercise that was undertaken, I want to say in the late 1990s.
Yeah.
So legit,
you just go down by the coconut tree, make a left to look for the red house.
Oh, turn by Mr. Joe Ebank's house, and then take another left by so and so. And I don't know if you guys remember this. I don't know how long you've been here, but back in the day, we got really pissed off when Flo, at the time, Cable Wireless, outsourced their directory services that you would call to because Jamaicans in Jamaica, they're like, okay, it's just in such and such a street. And we're like, where? So it was kind of crazy that people didn't know street names back then, but they went through this whole exercise of where they did map out the island and they did name streets. Before then it was very like, oh, but don't you know? So like, I remember when I first came back and I didn't know anybody. And literally I would call and I'd be like, can I get a number for this person? Well, we don't have her number, but we have her daughter's number or her mom is so-and-so. Like that was the kind of service you got on the phone. So it was kind of cool in a way.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, now you've got Google Maps.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's how we give the traffic, by the way. Here's a little technology. It's amazing the technology that Google Maps uses. So I don't know if you know how it works. So if you use Google Maps, you can see where if you do the satellite button on there, it'll show you where all the red is, and that's where all the traffic is. Well, how do they do that? Do you know?
Satellites?
No, not satellites. If you have a Google email address.
Wait, they're tracking in your phone.
Yes.
So when
you sign the terms and conditions, when you sign up for a Gmail account, which I have, they will track your location, and all those Gmail address users are in one little spot on a road. That's where you get the red.
So riddle me this. Are they not using that to find maybe missing people?
Well, I'm sure. I don't know. That's how they do the traffic in all the cities.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Kind of wild, right?
That's interesting.
I mean,
I guess for a wreck, it would be useful, which happens a lot. But I mean, any morning, I could tell you, as someone who did school runs for 4 years, I could tell you where the traffic is.
Yeah. But it's completely accurate on those traffic. We use the Google Map
That's
technology.
crazy. I did not know that.
Yes.
Invasion of privacy, always. And yet people are worried about getting vaccinated with a 5G chip, and they have Gmail.
Yeah. Sandy, you have a song for us for Old School Fridays?
So, oh gosh, you always put you're taxing my brain with this request. I don't know, but listen, if you're in the area of Bobby Thompson, there seems to be some sort of an incident here. It doesn't exactly look like a traffic accident, but she could be
looks broken down
in some sort of distress. Yeah. So just be careful so you don't create a traffic accident in that area. Yeah. So that's kind of crazy, but old school.
Yeah, old school track. Give us an old school song.
Oh my gosh.
From the 80s.
From the 80s.
80s or 90s?
I don't know. Help
you
me
like
out
ABBA?
here.
You like ABBA? You want an ABBA track?
Yeah. Okay.
Little Diana Ross. I'm coming out.
Yes, let's do Diana Ross. That sounds good.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
All right, we'll play that for you coming up.
Yeah, I gotta start thinking ahead.
Sandy and CMR, her show starts right now on Facebook and YouTube. Check it out, and we'll talk to you on Monday. Have a great week.
Bye, everyone.
All right, guys. Have a good one. All right, folks. Let us get going here. I think I actually need to unplug. I kind of look very toasted today because I do not have my overhead light. I think I physically have to unplug it, which requires a lot of work. I don't even know. There's too many cables in here. So shall we just go with the flow? Go with the little bit of a darker look this morning. It really does make a difference, though, I must say. I don't know which one is. Is there a way to power it off and on? Yeah, I legit do not know. So because of the power outage, I probably needed to just check everything yesterday once the power came back on. And I haven't done that as yet. And now I have no clue which one is that device. No, I've done that already. My husband's like, turn off the camera. So he's saying I have to physically touch the light. Like there's a power thing on the back. Oh, I see. Poor me. Chill. All right. I'll tell you what, while we are waiting on the news about that, did you guys hear? Oh Lord, there's a breaking stuff all over the world now. Okay, did you hear? Well, we'll talk about the Miami situation. So we'll play a video about that because that's very, very sad. And I did see video footage of literally when it happened, like somebody else's camera caught it. And it just looks absolutely crazy. So we're gonna have a look at that and see what that's all about. Really sad for people in Miami. It looks like it's going to be quite devastating given the number of people that are still missing. So let's talk about that a little bit this morning. And then, like I said, at 8 o'clock, we do have a number of, we're going to be checking in with the, what are they called? The international observers to see what they have going on. Okay, so let's watch a video. We've got footage, first of all, of the moment when the building collapsed, okay? So let's watch that first. And then we are going to watch, it's just so amazing because in this day and age, everyone has CCTV footage and cameras in other buildings and so forth. So good morning to Irvelyn. Good morning, Morna. Good morning, Indira. Rita's here. Thank you so much. We probably can expect some more rain. I'm hoping the event today, Seafarers Way Renaming ceremony, doesn't get rained out because obviously that's outside. So Irvelyn, so good to see you. Kay is here. Emma says, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you very much. Mia, Bonnie, Lily Boo, Kay, Kamisha's here. Diamond Princess says, I'm extremely grateful. It's my birthday. Hey, happy birthday. Send us a photo. We'll post it up and do a birthday shout out. Indira's here. Corrine says, happy Friday and wishing everyone a fab weekend. Felicia, Maria, Alice, Diamond says thank you for the birthday wishes. Catherine, hey Brandon. Charm is here. Vernita says thanking God for everything and drinking my coffee and tea together. You drink coffee and tea together? Oh, the mugs. You know what? I need to check where they are. I was hoping that they would arrive before the anniversary celebration next week. But let me check in with the company that I ordered them from and kind of see where we're at with those. So Corrine said, just go with the darkness. Good morning, Bishop. Hero Blair. Yeah, we had a lot of rain yesterday. I'm sure you guys saw that. Did you see the video with the lightning struck that actually caused the power outage? I think for most of the island, it was quite amazing. We'll play that as well this morning. So let me show you guys the couple videos in relation to what's going on in Miami. So of course, we do not live in isolation in this world. So I'm going to stop my camera so I can just restart my light, and then we're going to have a look at some of this stuff here. So this was actually the moment that it collapsed, that it was caught on footage. Like, it's just crazy, but here we go. All right, so that's what we know. Very, very surreal. It's just unbelievable. They have been doing a number of everybody's concerned now. People are like, oh my God, is my building gonna collapse? It's just like, how did this even happen? The aftermath of that is it's just crazy. So what they think is going on, it's going to obviously take them a while to come to any conclusions on this building. But one thing they do believe is the building was actually starting to sink, which is a little bit crazy. But they believe that was a contributing factor. So that's what they're saying this morning, is that the building was beginning to sink, and there was some sort of recertification process that was supposed to occur. Wow. So there's quite a bit of information about that. We do see there's some reports this morning from about 25 minutes ago. So I'm just trying to find one that is fairly updated, because there's some like 20 hours ago and so forth. But obviously, we want to get the latest news. So the official update death toll is 4. But as Blake and Aaron said this morning, there's actually way more people missing. They're just not willing to call it yet. So we're going to have a look at those video footage. Let's just have a look and see what else we can find out. But they're essentially saying that this is like catastrophic failure at all levels. And so they're trying to reassure most people in, the US, for example, that this is not something that you would ordinarily have happen. So don't start to panic just thinking that all sorts of buildings are going to be collapsing. Having said that, at the same time, it's little comfort to think that, you know, that this is going to be it's little comfort to really think that this is going to be something that isn't possible. It's just unbelievable. So let's have a watch of some of the latest news. This one is 20 minutes long. We won't watch this whole thing, but officials basically had a news briefing about the building collapse. Let's see what they have to say about it.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Savannah Guthrie in New York, and we want to go to a special report now as Florida officials are about to give an update on this painstaking process, the search and rescue operation.
Oh, my apologies. I've just seen your message that you can't hear it. 1 second. Sometimes I forget to do that last step that requires audio. So 1 second for me. Here we go. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Savannah Guthrie in New York, and we want to go to a special report now as Florida officials are about to give an update on this painstaking process, the search and rescue operation at the scene of that collapsed condo complex. As of the last news conference, 99 people unaccounted for, crews working around the clock. Let's join that news conference in progress.
Our FEMA representative who can tell you more. And that is going to assist us in our recovery efforts as well to assist the families. We have the resources for the families at the Family Reunification Center. We've been actively providing them everything that they need, food, shelter, cash to assist with their basic needs, and grief counseling. Obviously a very critical component as we move forward, as people are anxiously waiting for news of their loved ones. At this time, we have received all of the donations of goods and volunteers that we can handle at this time. We're very, very grateful for everyone who has contributed, and we will let people know as the need presents. But we do have 2 funding sites available for cash donations. Support Surfside.org and Chesed, CHESED, 2 sites that are receiving donations. So as we work tirelessly and stand united, local, municipal, county, state, and now federal support, we are going to work as hard as we can to continue our search and rescue effort. That is our priority. That is where we're focused, and protecting our first responders who are on the scene. So thank you, everyone. God bless. Y ahora en español puedo decir que desafortunadamente esta noche fue muy difícil. Pudimos decir que tenemos 4 que han desaparecido, 4 personas que se murieron. Pero tenemos también noticias de 120 personas que ya podemos contar que son
We've been listening to the mayor of Miami, Danielle Levine Cava, give an update. And just before we came on the air, she announced that 159 people are still unaccounted for. She's giving that same update in Spanish now. And I want to bring in NBC's Carrie Sanders, who's been listening along with us this morning. We also have the misfortune of having to announce that there are now 4 who have passed away in this tragedy. The one who initially was announced yesterday, but just 3, the Miami officials to say that have been pulled from the rubble overnight, Carrie.
There was a state senator who was at the scene last night who said that he saw, Savannah, them taking the body bags out of the rubble. And I think the greatest fear here is, as time goes by, that this death toll will rise. The real challenge, of course, is trying to get into the concrete and underneath, approaching from the garage area underneath the building to get into those areas. The hopeful news, of course, is that the authorities say they have heard some tapping, which indicates it may be somebody there or more than one person there. But when we think about the number of families that have gathered here that do not know each other, all waiting for news, and we know that there's 159 unaccounted for, the anxiety just grows with every minute of, will they find somebody else alive, and will it be perhaps their loved one? When we say unaccounted for, it's important to say unaccounted, not missing, because this is not a hotel. They don't have a list of everybody. Some people may be out of town. Some people may have had empty apartments or had other people staying in their condos. So they're trying to sort all that out. But just based on the number of friends and family who have gathered here at an evacuation center waiting to get some news, we know that there are a large number of people who are still unaccounted for. Savannah?
Yes, it's 159 people unaccounted for, but you do make a good point. This was a seasonal building, condos not always fully occupied. So we want to keep that in mind, keep hope alive. And also the news conference announced that the number of people who are accounted for went up to 120. So that is a good piece of news. We continue to keep our eye on this news conference. Let's join and listen in.
Firefighters through this operation. As you saw, that we did have the fire reignite, but it did not slow down our search and rescue operations. However, during our search and rescue operations, we did encounter 3 victims that were deceased. They were removed, and as she had mentioned, we bring the total to 4 fatalities. Again, search and rescue operations still continue. We have heavy machinery on scene to start pulling some of the superficial metal from above as we start looking for additional voids from above. Again, search and rescue still continues from below as we tunnel, utilizing heavy light machinery. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. To provide Spanish, we're going to have Public Information Officer Erica Benitez from Miami-Dade Fire.
Buenos días. Hoy nuestras operaciones de búsqueda y rescate continúan. Nosotros tenemos equipo adicional trabajando en esta operación.
All right, so we are seeing this bilingual news conference unfold. I want to bring Carrie Sanders back in. We just got an update from fire official who confirmed what we were just talking about, Carrie, that there are now, there were 3 additional bodies pulled from that rubble overnight, bringing the death toll to 4. If you're just joining us, 159 people still unaccounted for. And Carrie, you've been there, I mean, since the wee hours yesterday morning when this happened. It is painstaking work and dangerous work that these heroic first responders are undergoing right now.
When I spoke to Assistant Chief Raid Jadala, he explained to me that not only do they have now working shifts, so remember, this is going around the clock. We have multiple firefighters, I think the number was like 130 or something like that, that are working in these shifts trying to make their way. They have to also remember that there's a portion of the building that is standing. And so any piece of concrete that is moved could cause that building to collapse. I mean, to use a reference that people might know, it's like Jenga. If you pull something out, will it still stand? And so they have to be very careful, because the last thing they want to do is cause what remains to be up from coming down. But they're working around the clock.
Let me pause you.
I think the most important thing is...
Carrie, let me pause you there. I want to go back to the news conference. Sorry for the interruption.
Estamos rezando por las víctimas. Hemos perdido 4 personas que han fallecido. Nuestros detectives están trabajando para identificar las víctimas y también avisar a la familia. Estamos manteniendo la área restricta porque tenemos equipo aquí muy fuerte. So vamos a seguir trabajando y ayudando el Fire Rescue. Gracias.
Thank you, Director. We're going to have Kevin Guthrie. He represents the Florida Division of Emergency Management.
Morning, everyone. Kevin Guthrie, Director of the Florida Division of Emergency Management. Overnight, we had a mutual aid request go in that is being handled by the State Fire Marshal's Office for additional urban search and rescue teams. You know that Florida Task Force 2, which is out of the city of Miami, is going to be the first to help rotate in to help Miami-Dade Fire Rescue here at the site. We have put the additional search and rescue teams throughout the state. There's a total of 8 teams throughout the state, so that's an additional 6 teams have been put on standby to rotate in as needed at the request of Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. So that has happened. At 12:26 this morning, you heard the mayor refer to it. At 12:26 a.m. this morning, I received the emergency declaration from FEMA, and that has happened. That is going to turn on what is referred to as Category A, debris removal, Category B, emergency protective measures, and individual assistance for FEMA reimbursement. We will be providing throughout the day additional details as more FEMA staff roll in on the individual assistance piece, but I think we should set the expectation now that that will be limited to addresses at 8777 Collins Road. So please just know that that is coming. As I said, FEMA is on the way. The first individual came in about 3 a.m. this morning. That is our state regional coordinator, Paul Williams. He is going to be followed by about 15 additional personnel.
Okay, folks. So that just gives us an idea of what they're doing on the ground this morning. Obviously, they are trying to mobilize a lot of their resources. I mean, it is so surreal to actually see the photos. Like you saw that one with that bed, with the white bed that's just like there. It's just, oh my God, it's devastating. Our prayers go out, obviously, to our friends and family members and just people, you don't even have to know anyone to certainly relate to how incredibly horrific this situation must be for people in Miami. There's a lot of people there who are obviously very, very concerned that perhaps one of their loved ones could be in that number of still 159 people essentially missing. So we'll keep an eye on it. They don't think it's a terrorism situation at all. They think it's something else in terms of the age of the building. They said it's probably going to be one of those situations where it is actually multiple factors that led to the partial collapse of this high-rise residential building in Miami. So it's just unbelievable when you look at the photos. Like, oh my God, I was looking at some of them and I'm just like, what? Like the front just completely crumbled. And so 159 people still missing from a condominium collapse in Surfside, Florida that happened yesterday morning. And I know we were on air when when news of it was coming in. And of course, CMR had it up on our website. It was called the Champlain Towers South Condo, and that's where the collapse occurred. A little bit unknown of exactly how many people might be unaccounted for. So far, that number is at 159, because again, I think this was one of those condos where people are kind of like coming and going, a little bit more transient. But honestly, how many of you, it was a 12-story oceanfront condo, how many of you have lived or stayed in a hotel in Miami? And it's like, you don't even think about it. You're up on the, 19th floor or 20th floor or whatever. And some of these buildings have been there a really, really long time. So they did mention that engineering inspections happen every 5 or 10 years, and it sometimes includes removing drywall or other material, so that they can have a look at the steel beams to make sure that they're not eroding away. So they'll continue to get more details as this investigation continues. And obviously the focus right now is a recovery, or I should say rescue mission. At some point, undoubtedly, that will change to a recovery mission. But they're saying that the salt in Miami's coastal air could have contributed to the facility, the erosion of the steel in the structure. So someone made mention, they said that evidence or erosion can appear in rust stains or exposed rebar. And one expert shared that it's like a cancer. By the time you see it, it could be too late. And so again, it's just devastating to see the video footage of when it happened, and to also see the actual pictures and stuff of the aftermath of this. I mean, literally, look at this. There's that bed. Looks like it was a bunk bed. AC units just hanging. If this was a 30-year-old building, when did what was that devastating hurricane that went through Miami and they changed all the building codes after that? Hurricane, was it Andrew? Well, there's one earthquake, you guys might remember, that literally just collapsed all of the home, like it just flattened all the homes in Miami. And after that, they realized that their infrastructure, Michelle, thank you, Michael, saying it was Andrew. That's what I thought. And after that, they did improve upon their building codes. So I have to wonder if this was a Andrew building, that still had older building codes and stuff in place. But yes, I mean, some of the infrastructure for some of these homes, I'm often surprised at how quickly they can just throw up a home in the States. And then when you see, how thin the walls are and so on, you kind of go, okay. Even the floor, you can see the flooring between the piece of slab, kind of what's left of it, between the floors. And it almost looks like it's stuffed with foam. Like that doesn't really look like concrete, but there's a significant amount of concrete in the building as well. And they obviously think that there's some people who are still in there because they hear tapping, and that's people trying to let them know that they're still stuck in there, trapped under this rubble. And I mean, you can imagine how devastated that would be for people to see that and know that that could potentially be their loved ones. So they're saying that, the salt can have a severe impact on coastal buildings, and he's really not sure how long it would take for salt to erode a building's material to the point of collapse. They're also saying that this building was constructed with a post-tension slab, which is a concrete slab that has cables running through it. And one of those cables came loose, and that could have led to its destruction. Isn't that crazy? Like one cable coming loose in that concrete. Obviously, engineering and building engineering is a very complex issue. So it will take them some time, I think, to try to figure out and put all the factors together of what might have happened here. Post-tension slab, wow. And this expert again said that, in fact, that post-tension slab situation could take down an entire building. So this condo had 2-bedroom units on the market between $600,000 and $700,000. It was built in 1981. And again, making the note that when the county had very different construction codes, and making the point that I was just making, he says, with every hurricane, new construction codes came out, new engineering codes. And this is some 40 years later since the building was constructed. The codes have changed at least a dozen times. I know they have. And so some of these older buildings are not really built to withstand the type of same weather conditions, as when they were built originally. Another possibility is that the building's balconies may have had some structural issues. Saying here that many Miami area buildings are built with concrete balconies that are back pitched, meaning they don't allow water to escape properly after it rains. And that's a lot of concrete. There's a lot of concrete restoration going on. And this is where you see a lot of that rust and rebar coming through the slab between the water sitting there and the salt air. It's just not a good combination. This is what he says here, this expert. But again, I don't know if that could take down the whole building. We just don't know what happened. So there could be a number of different factors, and they're all going to have to look at those that can cause a condominium like that to fall. So folks, let's see if we can check in with the international observers. They're supposed to be on a Zoom call right now. So let's just have a look here to see if we can get this going. This is their press conference that they're having via Zoom. So let us join in, open Zoom meeting. I'm going to see if I can share this. I'm going to join without video. And then I'm going to see if I can share this with you guys.
In person this time to observe proceedings on election day, we acknowledge our limitations. Still, we have attempted to look at the wider electoral process to the best of our abilities.
Okay.
We are aware that, for the occasion of this election, 9 domestic observers were appointed to observe electoral proceedings in person. Our missions were not linked, and we have come to our findings independently. Before we discuss our findings, on behalf of the mission, I would like to say a sincere thank you to the Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Wesley Howell, and to his staff for their availability and willingness to help facilitate our work. We also wish to thank all the stakeholders who took time to virtually meet with us during the course of this mission.
Today, we are pleased to publish our final report, which is publicly available online. In our report, we make 15 recommendations to improve the electoral process in the Cayman Islands. Without further ado, I will introduce you to the legal analyst, Armin Rabic, who will provide you with a summary of the findings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The mission has considered the legal framework within which the 2021 general election took place, including domestic laws as well as international legislation that applies to the Cayman Islands. We have found that the legal framework in place provides an adequate basis for conducting democratic elections. Parliamentary elections are primarily regulated by the Constitution and by the Elections Act. Both pieces of legislation have been amended since the last election in 2017. Although discussions took place to take forward some of the recommendations made by the previous CPA-BIMR mission in 2017, no changes relevant to elections were made. Only one legal change relevant to elections was made on the day before Election Day. The Elections Act was amended on that day to allow for the joint counting of ballots contained in mobile and postal ballot boxes, together with the ballot papers cast on Election Day. Otherwise, the voters' secrecy of choice would have been compromised, as in one of the district, only one single mobile ballot paper was received from a voter whose name was published as prescribed. This legal amendment had been recommended by the 2017 mission. However, amending electoral legislation at such a late stage is not in line with the Venice Commission Code of Good Practice in Electoral Matters. We also reviewed the boundary delimitations of districts. The Cayman Islands Constitution provides that there should be, as far as possible, an equality between the number of registered voters in each electoral district. An explicit exception is made in the case of Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, which together must have at least 2 representatives. The Constitution also provides for an electoral boundary commission. The 2015 Electoral Boundary Commission report provided the boundaries and distribution of voters for the newly introduced 19 single-member constituencies. However, for the 2021 election, there were significant differences in the number of voters registered in each district. The largest district, Town East, contained 1,664 registered voters, as compared to much smaller districts such as North Side with 836 registered voters and East End with 769 registered voters. In other words, a registered voter in East End district had more than double the weight of a registered voter in Town East. Therefore, it is arguable that electoral boundaries have not been drawn in compliance with the Constitution and international standards. We recommend that the Electoral Boundary Commission should conduct a delimitation exercise to ensure electoral districts are of similar size in terms of registered voters. As set out by the Venice Commission, deviation from the norm should not be more than 10% and should certainly not exceed 15% except in special circumstances. I would like to move on to discuss the right to vote. Of an estimated population of 65,000 persons, 34,000 persons hold Canadian status, with about 26,600 of them eligible to register to vote. As per the Constitution, a person has to have Canadian status in order to have the right to vote. In addition, a person must have resided in the Cayman Islands for at least 2 of the 4 years immediately preceding the date of registration. This seems to be overly restrictive and may exclude Canadians that are otherwise eligible from exercising their right to vote. Additionally, persons certified to be insane or otherwise adjudged to be of unsound mind are not allowed to vote either. We recommend that any discrimination in voting rights against persons with disabilities should be abolished. There is also a blanket ban on voting for prisoners serving sentences exceeding 12 months imprisonment, regardless of the nature of the crime involved. This is contrary to European jurisprudence and should be reviewed. The right to stand for election in the Cayman Islands, which is set out in the Constitution, is also restrictive. If a Caymanian born in the Cayman Islands wishes to stand for election, or if they have at least one parent or grandparent born in the Cayman Islands, he or she has to have resided in the Cayman Islands for a period of not less than 7 years immediately preceding the date of his or her nomination, and they must not have been absent for more than 400 days in that period. If a potential candidate is born outside the Cayman Islands, this residency requirement is even stricter, as they have to have resided in the Cayman Islands for at least 15 years out of the 20 years preceding the date of his/her nomination. The exclusion of candidates on the basis of residency is unreasonable and discriminatory according to international law and could be reviewed in line with international good practice. Persons that are insane or otherwise adjudged to be of unsound mind are not allowed to stand either. This is contrary to provisions of international law and should be abolished. Additionally, the ban in place for persons convicted for imprisonment exceeding 12 months does not make any distinction between the different types of offenses, and the ban in place for those convicted of an offense involving dishonesty is too broad. Another issue that we considered was the process for electoral complaints and appeals. In the Cayman Islands, there's lack of clarity on who is responsible for dealing with electoral complaints and appeals. Responsibility seems to be partly shared by a number of statutory commissions that have been set up under the Constitution. Legally, the supervisor of elections has no jurisdiction to receive complaints regarding any aspect of the conduct of the electoral campaign, as the Elections Act is silent on that matter. Nonetheless, the mission was informed about several complaints made to the supervisor of elections, which were mostly about alleged treating, defacing of campaign materials. We recommend that clear and coherent complaints and appeals procedures should be introduced in line with international good practices. We have also looked at disability rights. The Cayman Island has a national disability policy and a National Disability Council. In terms of legislation, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disability remains to be extended to the Cayman Islands. I have also already mentioned that certain persons with disabilities have been disenfranchised of the right to vote and the right to stand in elections. In addition, concerns remain regarding the level of support and information granted to persons with disabilities to enable them to make an informed choice and to exercise the right to vote independently. Moreover, there is a procedure in place that when a voter requests assistance, they can only be assisted by the presiding officer. They could also request a family member or confidant to be present, but the presiding officer would still have to fill in the ballot. This procedure is contrary to international good practice, which suggests that voters should be enabled to vote themselves or with the assistance of a trusted family member or confidant alone. Finally, we have looked at women's rights in the Cayman Islands, and we have made a recommendation to promote equal participation of women in political life. I would now like to hand over to Alex Folks, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Armin. As part of our mission, we spoke to a wide variety of stakeholders about the electoral process, including officials, civil society groups, and voters. Many of the stakeholders we spoke to praised the Elections Office for the manner in which the election was administered. The election officials enjoyed the confidence of the public and the majority of candidates. We wish to commend the Elections Office for providing extensive training to all polling staff and for preparing educational materials for staff and for candidate and party agents. The Elections Office also undertook a campaign of voter education. The Supervisor of Elections is not in his position continuously. The Supervisor and Deputy Supervisors only take on their responsibilities around 6 months before the anticipated date of the election and return to their regular roles in the civil service a few weeks after the election has concluded. This limits the amount of work that can be done between elections, for instance, with regards to long-term voter education or voter registration drives. In addition, the Cayman Islands does not have an electoral commission or equivalent that could oversee the policy and enforcement aspects of elections work, interpret electoral law, advise on changes to electoral law, and consider complaints. Therefore, we have made recommendations for a more substantial elections office with a permanent supervisor of elections and for the establishment of an independent electoral commission. The number of voters registered for this election increased by more than 2,000 compared with those registered for the 2017 election. The increase followed a voter registration drive by the Elections Office, including a social media drive and events in schools and colleges. Nonetheless, voter registration still falls short of a significant proportion of eligible voters, mainly those between the ages of 18 and 25. The requirement of active registration may have contributed to this, as well as a possible intention by eligible voters to avoid jury duty, which is drawn from the Register of Electors. The early deadline for registration may have also contributed to this. The deadline for registration to vote in these elections was the 20th of January, before the election was even called. We therefore recommend that voter registration could be undertaken on an ongoing basis, with the last date to register brought closer to election day. Another area of the election that we've assessed is campaign finance. The funding of election campaigns in the Cayman is opaque and there is a lack of transparency. Election candidates are only required to submit limited details of their campaign expenditure and of donations received. The source of a donation only has to be fully declared in case of donations of more than 10,000 Caymanian dollars, and only a summary of declarations is made publicly available online by the Supervisor of Elections. There is no obligation of any state institution to verify the completeness and accuracy of the expenses and donations that are declared. The law does not specify whether a formal audit is required, and this has not historically taken place. Therefore, we recommend that full online transparency of campaign donations and expenditure above a de minimis limit should be introduced. that the legal framework could be amended to require all goods and services bought for the benefit of the campaign period to be declared, as well as the sources of funding for campaign expenditure, and that all campaign finance declarations could be audited by a qualified person upon receipt by the electoral supervisor. In addition, campaign finance is only regulated for a short period of time, namely between the period between nomination day and election day. However, interlocutors shared with us that campaigning started months before a nomination day. Therefore, we recommend that the regulated campaign finance period could be extended. Thank you for listening. I'll now hand back to Fleur.
Thank you both very much. For a full overview of our findings, I would like to direct you to our final report, which includes an overview of all of our 15 recommendations. The report has been published today and is available on www.uk-cpa.org. A link has been shared in the chat of this Zoom call as well. Please note that our recommendations are not binding, and it will ultimately be up to the competent authorities and to the people of the Cayman Islands to take these forward. I will now open the floor for questions. Please use the raise hand function on Zoom to indicate you have a question. And when I give you the floor, please unmute yourself to ask the question. I'd be very grateful if you could introduce yourself and share which media outlet you are from. Thank you. I would also welcome you to unmute yourself to ask your question. Yes, Ms. Ledger.
Thank you, because I can't seem to find the raised hand button. Sorry about that. Could you give us a few more details, please, about how and who you engaged with?
Yes, absolutely. I will share some more details, and I'll ask my colleagues to jump in if I've missed anything. So we, over a period of 2 weeks, we set up an extensive program of meetings with a wide range of stakeholders in the Cayman Islands. This includes the elections office, election officials, as well as other officials across the Cayman Islands, such as the police. We also discussed the voting rights of prisoners as well, so we engaged with the relevant officials as well on that, as well as civil society groups, a number of civil society groups that are active in the Cayman Islands on a wide range of topics, such as those involved in climate change or LGBTQ rights, and we met with ordinary voters to hear of their experience dealing with the electoral system in the Cayman Islands.
How did you do that with some kind of Zoom meetings? Because we haven't been able to find any voters that spoke to you.
So we also, one important group that I probably should have mentioned is political parties and political candidates. We extend invitations to all political parties and candidates to meet with us. And we've engaged with, for example, university students to hear from their experience, and a number of voters that we met with. We were particularly interested in young people, so we actively tried to reach out to them as well. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so in other words, you did sort of some kind of group Zoom meeting like this?
We did, yes, a number of group Zoom meetings like this, yes.
Can you give us a rough idea how many?
I would have to look at our program, but it was 2 weeks of back-to-back meetings. So my colleagues, any 20? I don't know.
I think I calculated it as about 25 to 30 meetings. I can't be exact, but it's in that order. It's worth pointing out, obviously, that our methodology was to engage with the stakeholders in the election rather than try to reach a representative sample of electors. So we wouldn't pretend to have done that. Obviously, we weren't there on election day, and therefore that was one key aspect that we were not able to observe, and we say from the start that we weren't able to observe that, and therefore we don't make any recommendations around the practices on election day except as they were reported to us.
Thank you very much. I see a raised hand from Miss James, please, from Cayman Compass, I think.
Hi, yeah, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your report. I suspect it's probably, you probably slightly touched on it when you were answering Wendy's question there. I know that the report ends on with the sort of graphic of the election results. Once the results were declared, we followed a period, we had about a week or so of kind of horse trading where the government was being formed. I wondered if the mission had had any role in observing that process, and if there were any findings to report there, or whether your remit sort of ended once the votes were kind of counted and published.
Alex, would you like to answer this?
Yes, well, our remit ran up to election day. Normally, if we'd been on the ground, we would have observed election day itself. As explained, we couldn't do that. We did follow what was happening afterwards, but that was more to inform us about what had happened. We were prepared to look and try and trace up on any complaints or appeals that may have happened, but the formation of a government was not within our remit. So that aspect of it was a matter that we were watching as from personal interest, but it was not something that we were including within our report.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lund, please.
Hello, thank you. I'm from Real Cayman News. I just have a question about the Independent Campaign Electoral Commission that I think it was Mr. Alex Folks talked about. Should this commission be made of people appointed by the government, or should it be made of elected officials across their district, or just in general independent volunteers that want to step in and just help oversee elections?
Alex.
I think it needs to be formed of people who will be able to do the job. So looking at the remit that we've suggested, as in, the people of Cayman, the government and the governor and the people of the Cayman Islands need to look at the role that we have suggested. They may interpret that, of course, but we're suggesting a commission that is able to exercise functions that look at electoral law, that look at complaints and appeals, that look at finance. And so we would suggest that the people who make up that commission should have that expertise. But it needs to be independent, obviously, of the political parties, and it needs to be independent of the supervisor of elections and the elections office, because it needs to be able to make comments which are separate from them. So how that is done is a matter for the people of the Cayman Islands to establish. But we would look to suggest that it is the outcome, it is the function that it should be controlling and decisive, rather than the formation process.
Thank you. Any further questions? Once again, feel free to unmute yourselves if you'd like to do so.
Sorry, can I interject for another one?
Of course, yes.
I'm quite curious. I'm quite curious about your recommendation that we should extend the period of time over which campaign finances are measured, because I think that's a very popular suggestion. I haven't had a chance to read the report yet because I've just seen it. So do you actually give any guidelines on what time period would be more reasonable and in line, say, with international practice, to at least give some idea? Because I think that is something that people, even if the politicians don't want it to happen, I think people do.
Thank you. I'd
It'd be
like
good to have some advice on
Alex, please.
There's no cut and dried international standard for this, so it requires some interpretation. But I think that the basic standard is that actions, campaigning that is seeking to influence the election should be included within the electoral finance report. Now, some countries will take a view that there should be annual reports or 6 monthly reports all the time. Others will take a view that there should be an extended period leading up to the election itself. It's up to the people of Cayman to decide what is appropriate. We're suggesting that the current limitation of nomination day to election day is too short, especially given that we were told that a number of candidates were campaigning perfectly legitimately, perfectly within the law, but they were campaigning before nomination day. Equally, that some candidates were buying goods and services before election day, which would then be used, before nomination day, which would then be used during the campaign period. So there has, I know, been some talk in the past about accrual accounting, which is a technical term that would cover the latter of those points. What we're suggesting is, as well as that, there ought to be an extended period of campaign finance reporting so that everything that is done for the benefit of trying to get elected should be reported in terms of donations and spending within a publicly available, transparent report. We don't set a time limit on that, however.
Okay. Also, can I also ask, is the $5,000 limit of sort of international comparison, or do you think that's particularly high or low?
I think it would be wrong.
You don't have...
I think it would be wrong for me or us to comment on that, because each country is unique. Each country is different. You know, in the case of Cayman, there are multiple islands, so that obviously adds complexity and adds cost, especially in what we might call a normal election, where candidates are travelling around, and especially party leaders are travelling around. There's also the issue of the relative costs of media buying, the relative costs of print buying, and so on. So it's wrong for us to make a suggestion as to the limit. We simply note within the report that some candidates suggested the limit was too low, some candidates suggested the limit was too high.
Actually, I think you've misunderstood my question. What I meant was the identity of donors. You don't have to identify a donor who gives $4,999.99, if you see what I mean. So I just wondered whether that's a particularly high value or low value compared to other jurisdictions.
Again, I'm not going to compare with other jurisdictions, but we would consider that. We've said within the report that we believe that limit should be brought down.
Okay, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I would like to bring in Sandy Hill, please, as we haven't heard a question from you yet. And please share which media outlet you're from as well.
Hi, good morning. It's Sandy from Cayman Mall Road. I think my question may have been a little bit close to what Wendy was asking as well. But does your report make any recommendations, since there's this idea of expanding it? And I think the answer might be no, based on what Alex just said. But most candidates found it hard, even within that shorter period of time, to stay within the $40,000 limit. So if you're expanding the time period, does that mean then there's some recommendation for also expanding the allowable amount that someone could spend on their campaign?
Alex?
We haven't made a recommendation on that. I think it would be legitimate, if you're going to change the reporting period, to consider the expenses limit as well. You know, but that's based on the factors I mentioned just earlier, is something that the people of Cayman, when this consultation is happening, when this decision is being made, it's for the people of Cayman to decide whether that 40,000 is too high or too low. You know, it is a legitimate thing to reconsider if the expenses reporting period is being broadened as we suggest.
Right. And just a comment from one of our viewers, as we are streaming this live to our viewers at the moment, an individual who's an actual candidate in the past election says that this is an academic exercise, and he's wondering, since none of the recommendations from 2017 were actioned, this proves his point that these reports are merely words on paper that are ignored by those with responsibility and power to make the necessary changes to make the system any better and more fair and transparent, etc. So he is just wondering, is this just an exercise in academics and nothing will ever come of this, per, in his opinion, the last report. And then also he's inquiring because he says that no one from the International Electors Office, or your group, sorry, contacted him. So he's wondering, how many candidates were you able to successfully reach out to?
I can quickly answer the second question. We have gone through great efforts to attempt to contact all candidates, not just directly ourselves, but also with assistance from the Supervisor of Elections and the Elections Office. They've greatly helped us in reaching out to all candidates. So the particular candidate you were referring to will probably have an invitation from us in his inbox somewhere. In terms of whether or not this is an academic exercise, I will maybe bring in Armin Rabic for this answer, if he likes to comment.
Thank you very much, Flo. It's not an academic exercise. It's a process and a procedure enshrined in international good practice, as established in front of the United Nations. There is a 2005 Declaration of Principles for International Observation, and which enshrines the impartiality and non-interference of election observers. So what we are doing is to present our assessment and our findings and recommendations, and it is then on the government and those responsible to take those up and implement them. It is our methodology to assess the electoral legal framework of a given territory or country with international standards, good practices, and international relevant jurisprudence, and then also assess whether the process itself meets the legal and electoral framework of that country and territory. It is then also part of the procedure and methodology that a follow-up mission could take place in order to look into the aspects of the electoral reforms and whether any of the recommendations have been taken up. But from our aspect, we presenting this report with the 15 recommendations, and we might come back to that on a follow-up mission and see whether any of the government institutions or political parties, but also civil society organizations has taken up any of these recommendations.
Thank you. And I'd like to add to that as well that we have run, CPA-BIMR has run election observation missions in multiple UK overseas territories and crown dependencies. And we've already seen a lot of the fruits from our work there as they have started introducing electoral reform. For example, in Jersey, we conducted a mission there in 2018, and they've decided to change their electoral system based on our recommendations, as well as in the Turks and Caicos Islands, which has amended their elections amendment ordinance in December of 2020. So there are some strong examples there of where our recommendations have introduced or sped up electoral reform. Thank you very much. I would like to bring in Miss James again, please. Thanks. From Cayman Compass, I think.
Thanks, Flo. You can call me Caroline. That's fine. Don't worry. I had a question in relation to your complaint section. I note you say the mission was informed about several complaints, mostly about alleged treating and defacing of campaign materials. I wonder if there was anything that was brought to your attention in terms of kind of infractions that made you sort of question the integrity of the process or gave you any sort of real cause for concern.
Armin, would you like to answer that?
No, we did not receive any indication or any information about any complaints in that direction. But however, we think it is worthwhile to strengthen the complaints and redress system in the Cayman Islands, because it's as we describe it in the report, in our findings, it's very scattered, and it would gain of having a clear and transparent complaints procedures that everyone knows where to lodge the complaint and what is the procedure of lodging a complaint and answering such a complaint.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lund, please, from Real Cayman News.
Hello, I just have a question for Mr. Armin. I'm sorry if I messed up your name. So you spoke about prisoners with a 12-month, I believe this was a cap on voting. I was just wondering, is for prisoners voting, is this a 12 months from their sentence? Like if they get a 12-month sentence for example, stealing a loaf of bread, or is this 12 months left of their sentence, then they can start voting again?
So this is on the restriction on the right to vote for prisoners. Armin, please.
It's about the 12-month sentence. It's not whether the remaining time is still 12 months. It's about the 12-month sentence, and we refer to the international jurisprudence on that matter, especially to Hears versus UK, where a general ban on voting rights on prisoners is not considered good practice. So there should be a judge deciding on a case-by-case matter whether prisoners will keep the right to vote and to stand or not. I hope I answered your question.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Miss Sandy Hill, please. Okay, no problem.
Can I just get one last one in? Sorry, I don't seem to be able to use that hand thing for some reason. Just very quickly, you say that did you not receive any complaints at all about vote buying?
Do you mean us directly, as in voters complaining to us? Alice,
no, from candidates, from other candidates, I would imagine, or possibly from voters, but most likely from candidates, about other candidates vote buying.
We heard a number of allegations, but they were allegations which did not come with any evidence. And of course, it's worth saying straight away that we are not a judge, a receiver of complaints. So if people did raise that with us, we would suggest to them that there are proper authorities within the Cayman Islands to whom they would need to make a report if they wanted it to be actioned. You know, we can note anything that came to us, but in order for it to pass a threshold for us to take it seriously, you know, we would need to have some sort of credible evidence, and rumor and innuendo is not credible evidence. So whilst a number of people did raise concerns about treating and vote buying, there was nothing that came to us which had substantive evidence that we would think warranted a concern that this was definitely taking place within this election. You know, we to be honest, we can't comment further than that because we just don't know. And that's the case with, I think, any electoral mission, whether it's virtual or on the ground, that we are not the police. We cannot go investigating these sorts of things. All we can do is signpost anybody who makes such a comment to the police or other relevant authorities.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have some more time for final questions if there are any. If you have any, feel free to unmute yourself. If not, I would like to thank you all very much for your time today and for your questions. We have shared the link to the report that is available to the public, and if you'd like to reach out to us on anything in relation to the report, feel free to contact us directly. We've also shared a press release that is out today. And I would like to thank especially my team members here on the call for joining us today. And I wish you all a very pleasant day. Thank you for joining. Bye-bye.
Okay, folks. So there you have it. That is the international electors report from the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association. Well, they have that on their thing. I think, I don't know if they're sponsored by them or connected, but that's on the Zoom thing. So it's the, let me get their official title. I'll tell you exactly what it is. So obviously we will be doing a story on this here shortly. I've got a regional correspondent working on that to put that up. Some pretty interesting recommendations. We'll put together a panel next week of individuals, candidates, and others to perhaps dissect these changes. So, yes. Oh, wow. There's some breaking news come out of Jamaica this morning. Someone who was assigned to senior cabinet minister dies in fiery crash. Oh my goodness. Oh, the world is a bit crazy. So yeah, so we will definitely get that going here this morning. So quite a few things happening. All right, folks. So in case you you missed it, the report is online. When we put the story up, we will certainly be seeking to we'll include their report as well so that you can actually read it for yourself. So we're getting some information this morning about a possible quarantine breach. I'm trying to get some details or confirmation of that. The report that we got is it's being discussed widely this morning. Transport Authority had a breach of quarantine, and there are lots of people talking about it. Somebody else is asking, were any recommendations made on how to clamp down on vote buying? So they're saying that they weren't provided with any evidence of a vote buying. Yes. So, somebody, I think Johan said that stuff was reported to the domestic observers. I don't think the two were in discussions with each other. And so because of the COVID situation this year, the domestic observers were appointed by the governor, and the international observers did their role from overseas and remotely. So we actually were in contact with them. I know that they reached out to us for sure. And they said that they had gotten their contact details from the governor's office, who wanted to ensure that all media were able to participate in the process. So maybe on, I've got somebody booked to come on Tuesday. Let me check Monday's schedule. Hi, Sammy. Let's talk about that on Monday. I think that we can certainly have the discussion. Johan doesn't seem to be impressed with the findings. Perhaps, Johan, you can read through the entire report and see exactly what they have to say in preparation for us having a panel discussion next week. So I'll reach out to a few other candidates who might be interested in joining, and we'll make a show of it next week. Maybe Monday. I'll double check a few schedules. If not, I think we'll probably have to push it for Wednesday, because I've already got Tuesday's show partially booked out as well. Okay, so this morning, as I mentioned, there's a number of things going on today. Today is actually going to be quite a busy day. King, thank you for joining us from the UK, for tuning in. So there are a number of things going on this morning, including the renaming of Johan says that he had no idea they were international observers. Really? Trust me, I would have helped them. Johan, I'm not sure how you didn't know that, because I'm pretty sure there was at least one or more stories about that. And we spoke to them for sure, and I'm pretty sure that we actually spoke about it on at least several programs, because I know they spoke to other candidates and it would have come up during the campaign cycle. So I'm not sure how you didn't know that they were here. So but we'll find out. I mean, they said that they reached out to most where they could, so maybe check junk mail folders and that sort of thing. I definitely got an email from them, and in fact, I queried it because I was like, "Who are these people? Are they legit, or were they like spammers or something else?" So, folks, a number of things going on this morning that we're going to be rushing to get to in terms of events. So just for your benefit, I told you earlier this morning that there is a street renaming exercise underway on the waterfront. So the street will be renamed. There it is. You guys seeing it first here on CMR as usual. The street will be renamed to Seafarers Way. So we've got a report coming up here soon. So more developments in Florida, of course, with that Surfside, Florida building collapse. But yes, this is going to be a new street called Seafarers Way. And we will be at that event this morning, live streaming that. So tune in for that ceremony. We've got the program, and I'm going to have to leave a little bit early in relation to that so that we can get there on time. Let me just see what else we have going on. So a bit later on in the day, we are waiting for some confirmation, by the way. I know that I've spoken to you guys before about this, about the situation that's happening in West Bay. So I'm trying to get a photo of that and put that story up. But we're closely monitoring that situation at a residence in a neighborhood in West Bay, where essentially someone is under police protection, but it's a bit of an unusual situation. So we've asked the RCIPS to, comment on that. We'll see if they will say anything specifically, but we have an idea of what's going on. So basically, this is a young man who was shot. And they're saying that he can't go into the witness protection program because he's not a witness. Yet they're giving him 24/7 protection. It's a little bit confusing. So we'll see if we can get some additional details on what exactly is transpiring there. What else do we have going on? I feel like there's some other things going on this afternoon as well. Miss Kayman is having a meet and greet, I think after 5 o'clock this evening, and then I'm due to have another meeting. So it's going to be quite a busy day. Johan is saying that he's not the only candidate who was not informed. Well, I don't know about being informed, but I think it would be on you to probably double check your emails. Let me just have a look and I can tell you. So we obviously the domestic observers, we had I'm just trying to find. I know there was a press release or something for sure about the international observers being how they were actually going to work, and then the appointment of the domestic ones, and then ahead of the election. So here's an article. This was back in May or March, and it says that that due to the COVID-19 related travel restrictions, the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association UK, which is CPA-UK, International Election Observer Mission will be conducting a virtual mission by remotely engaging with stakeholders in the Cayman Islands. This subsequently puts greater significance in having a team of domestic observers. So I thought it was pretty well known that we had both international observers sort of remotely trying to do what they do. And then we had domestic observers who were appointed by the governor, and there were 9 of those individuals. You might have just been too busy, Johan, with the election. I know how it is. You kind of get tied up into everything. And there was a number of people who would have, there was even I don't know if this is this was a letter to the editor that also talked about the international observers. This was March the 16th, about their role. And the entire thing was about, the title of this one is an editorial piece, but Transparency Cloud covers elections. So there was that as well. So there's definitely more than one mention of these guys. And like I said, I know that we mentioned it here on the show. I don't know what else you're paying attention to, Johan, but I'm a bit surprised that you missed that. Okay, so check that one out for your benefit, Sir Johan. And yeah. All right, good folks. So we will be heading out here shortly. So I finally got the light back on, by the way. Turns out it was actually unplugged. Someone mentions that I'm glowing this morning now that the light is back on, I guess. They can actually see the light. So thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. Somebody else is watching the stream. Okay, so we have some new equipment. I should warn you in advance. We have some new equipment that is going to be deployed this morning at the Seafarers Renaming ceremony. So you'll have to forgive me if we don't get 100% right, but we now have the ability to switch cameras and stuff. Woohoo! CMR is moving on up. So I will certainly hope that that goes without any glitches, because I think this is, a wonderful event that a lot of you may not be able to attend. So we want to make sure that we bring it live to you, live and direct. But I'm going to be leaving here in a few minutes because I've got to drive to town. There'll be limited parking because certain roads are closed off for the ceremony. And I want to make sure that I get all my equipment and everything set up. I'm hoping that it doesn't get rained out, but I'm also hoping that we don't have a whole lot of sunshine, because a lot of cameras don't like direct sun and heat. And, this is the Caribbean. So our heat is a little bit hotter than other places. So we'll play around with that and see how that goes today. So folks, I will reach out to a number of candidates to join us on next week's program, where we will be having a discussion. And just for the record, we have a group of candidates who have expressed an interest in joining us on a regular basis on the program, just to talk about ongoing issues and also just to keep the government on their toes, because I think that's important, making sure that no matter where you stand with or not against or whatever, this PAC government, you always have to be a critical thinker, first and foremost, a fair and balanced individual when you assess what governments are up to. So thank you guys so much for that. The people who have expressed that interest, we will definitely be engaging with them. And yes. Now, funny enough, I was having a conversation yesterday with an individual who's very, very much into politics, who has said that, a lot of these candidates disappear once they're not successful. And I think that if you have any intentions of ever running again, it is certainly not in your best interest to disappear. And I don't know why people do it. It's like they gear up for the election, maybe a month or two before they run, and then they disappear for 4 years. the race is not for the swift, it's for the turtles, you know, the slow and easy ride, where you can show people that you have the interests, stamina, and desire to stick with it in the long haul. And I'm often reminded of the fact that certain individuals like Kenneth Bryan, Christopher Saunders, all were unsuccessful their first run, and they maintained a level of commitment that demonstrated between not being successful and then the next election that they were serious about this. And that is why, indeed, they ended up winning the second time around back in 2017. So I think that there's a lot to be said for that position. And you know, there's some people, this is now their third and fourth time running, and they do it every cycle. They come out, then they disappear. You don't hear from them for literally years, and then they disappear. What I would say is, if you were not successful and you were close, even within a 100-vote margin, and you're thinking that you will do this again, or you actually do care about making a contribution in that particular way, because as I've said many times before, there's so many ways in which you can contribute to the betterment of your country. You do not have to be an elected official to do that. That's for sure. But if that is your desire to represent the people, then I would recommend that you stick with it, because that's what people do who are serious about something. Yes. Okay. I think I'm going to shoot out so that I can get to this event on time. King says, yes, best find a little tent. Yes, we will see where we can position the cameras to get the most shade available. I feel like I need those, you know, when you get a drink at a bar and you get those little miniature umbrellas, I feel like I need a miniature umbrella for these cameras, that I can kind of like a little Barbie doll umbrella or something that I can put over the cameras just to give them that extra protection. All right, beautiful people. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're ending the show just a little bit early today so I can jettison off to town, get to this event, and I will see you guys. Tune back in for the live for that at around 10ish, and let's see what's going on in Georgetown. So buenos dias to Alba. Dorette, good morning. Thank you all, beautiful people, for tuning in this morning. We will see you guys shortly. Again, going to the renaming ceremony for this event here, which is going to be called Seafarers Way. So we're letting the cat out of the bag already. They've obviously got the sign up. It's covered, but that's what's going down. But still tune in. I'm sure that it's going to be a lot of fun. So I will be wearing my CMR shirt representing. And then I'm going to take a change of clothes because, like I said, I've got so many things going on today that throughout the day at some point, I'm going to have to actually look different. But anyway, stay tuned, folks. We'll see you a bit later on.